Morning. In this video, we're going to add a newsfeed to our little social media API. To do so, we'll need to add a few different types of objects into our system. So I think the best way to visualize this will be with Draw.io, where you can go there and draw free diagrams about the systems that you design. All right, I just updated to fiber optics, so internet should be a whole lot faster. So right here we have a blank canvas. And so my plan for this API is to add a new data structure called a subscription. All right. So let's expand this a bit. This is choppy. All right. So we'll call this a subscription, and within that subscription, we'll have the user, we're subscribed to. So user ID we're subscribed to, and then with this subscription, we can then do a query on the PostgreSQL database where we fetch all the subscriptions and then fetch all the posts with matching user IDs in ordered by the date they were created at, thus giving a sense of a newsfeed. Right, so the subscription will be used ultimately to get a post. Right, so through the subscription, we'll read the post or the posts depending on, you know, depending on the use case, I guess. Right, so the subscription will be tied to the user post. Right. So right now it's a bit hard to better explain. Let's go back to our Gemini chat where we're actually writing. This is what I used to generate the previous thumbnail of my last video. All right, so I'm going to ask it I want to add a newsfeed to the REST API example. Add a data structure called subscription that can be created and deleted from the API, with the API, through the API, and then use the subscription object to generate a newsfeed limited to 10 posts because we don't want to download the entire database each time a user wants to see the 10 posts with pagination, so we can have infinite scroll set up there. Limited to 10 posts. Of the subscriptions a user has. And I believe it'll update a whole, like almost a lot of the code. It'll update the database file. It'll update the handlers. And I think we'll also have a few new models too. So let's go back to our project with our GORM API. All right, seems like Postgres is still running, which is good. I didn't turn it off since. And then let's clean this up a bit. Close all this. And let's go back and see what Gemini came up with. All right, so we have our subscription type. And so what's happening here with this GORM model is that we're preventing a user from subscribing to another user 2 times. So let's say I try to resubscribe to a user that I already have a subscription to. With these field tags, it should be throwing an error, right? And it's using the default field ID type, which is an unsigned integer. And then so let's go ahead and add subscription to our models, right? So this is our, let me add, yeah, perfect. Ship import GORM, all right. Perfect. So that's our subscription type, and that's the object I just showed you through Draw.io. Right. and we don't want to show. Um, we won't be including the subscription and subscribers field. Um, I think it's something that's not really required. Then again, I think we should add it, or maybe not. No, we won't add it. Or we could add it. It's a quick way to really count up and tally subscriptions of a user and things of that nature, right? Shouldn't be too bad, but it'll display. This will be problematic because if the person has a large number of subscriptions, the database is pulling it each time we're pulling the user, which is, and in my eyes, very inefficient. We definitely have another endpoint to get that data, right? So here we have create subscription, delete subscription, right? So these are our two handlers that we'll use to generate or add a new subscription to the system, right? So we'll add that in its own file, right? We'll add that to its own file. I think the code looks fine. Let's save. I believe the function didn't get closed correctly. Huh. All right. So this is missing some code. So all right, perfect. So now we'll fix that. Yes, it's always good to keep an eye out on these things. And then, as usual, our database type doesn't exist. I mean, database DB package doesn't exist, so we have to add it like this. I think I misspelled database. All right, perfect. So in our create subscription function, we're sending a post request where in our body we have a JSON field called target user ID, which is a user we ultimately want to subscribe to. And then once we parse the JSON from the request, we then construct an instance of the subscription type where we'll specify the target user ID and our own ID too, which is the subscriber, right? And then next we have delete subscription, which we just pass. Wait a minute. For okay, delete subscription, which will have a request parameter called ID, which will be the user that we would want to unsubscribe for, right? And then here's the actual Postgres query that we're sending to GORM, and then display the success message if it works. And I'm also going to tell it. I mean, at this point, it shouldn't still be doing this, but we should be setting the content type of our response, so that if we ever decide to build a front end, we'll be able to parse this response without too much hassle, right? Maybe I should put it. Yeah, I'll put it after the status code. It's not a bad idea. All right, so that's our subscription. Now let's add the start of this, or let's first integrate. Let's first integrate these endpoints, test them out, and then come back to the newsfeed and add them. So we'll skip through the newsfeed, and then we'll add our subscription endpoints. Right? So we'll go ahead and add those into our main.go file. All right. So there we have our two new endpoints, which will allow us to create a subscription and delete one. So let's just to clean this up. Let's change the endpoint to sub. So sub is our endpoint, and then we'll see create subscription. And in our create subscription request, we have to pass the target user ID. So let's go ahead and spin up the server. Hopefully, it should take 2 seconds. Oh, all right, it's up. And let's go back to Postman, and let's create a new user. Right. So let's add a new tab, and we'll say, sign up. And basically, we'll create a new user that will subscribe to the user we created in the last video, right? So let's say, all right, we have this one user, Shasek, and the email is that. And then let's go back here and let's sign up. We'll set our body to raw, JSON, and we have to set our name, chef2, email, shift at gmail.com. Just made that up. And then we'll add our password field, which will be, we'll call it secret, just to keep everything aligned and in order, right? So this is our sign up request. So we're gonna make a new user. Well, I'll post, my bad. All right, so we've created our new user, right? Now let's go ahead and get the token for our user. So let's just delete this. And we'll do our login endpoint. All right, so now we have our token, which is good. We just need to provide this token now when we're. I should also ask it to get a list of subs, but that's maybe not required now. But that's one thing to definitely add. It's one AI prompt away from happening. All right, so let's come here, authorization, and we have this beer thing. I still don't know what the beer thing does. All right, so basically at this point we're pretty much logged in. So we'll do subs, and then we'll try to create a subscription um, to user one. Right, so target user ID. Let's go back here. We're supposed the icons look alike. It's confusing. All right, so target user ID 1. Right, so here we're gonna attempt to create a subscription. Can I rename tabs? No, I can't. All right, so let's go ahead and send. Oh yeah, wait a minute. Let's see what I have here as my path. Oh, sub, not subs. Okay. Failed to create subscription. So let's go ahead and see which error are we getting. So, oh, snap. I forgot to do this. Let's go ahead and add our subscription model to the auto migrate. Function, which will automatically create our subscriptions table. Right. All right. So this is good. Let's go ahead back to Postman. Send. All right. So subscription created successfully. And let me see why aren't responses. Maybe I should set this before the ultimates response, basically. Set that like this. All right, let's move this up. Move it up and see what happens. All right, so I'm going to go in and delete the subscription. So sub 1, delete. All right, now it's showing me the right JSON format. So now let's create the subscription again. What? Okay, so maybe I think there's a problem with the delete code because the record is still there. Duplicate values. So the subscription doesn't actually get deleted. So what can we do to All right, so let's ask Gemini to have remove subscription perform a hard delete, not a soft one. So in this case, it's only setting the deleted at column, and by now removing the row, if we attempt to add a new one, it'll result in a duplicate key or index value error. Right? Why is this taking so much time? All right. So I want this to delete. What? Unscoped. Okay. Okay. All right. So let's go back to Postman and let's try to delete our post again. I just want to see what happens if I try to delete it. We'll throw an error. Subscription not found. All right, this is great. So what did Gemini say? DB unscoped. So we'll definitely do that. All right, looks like it exists. And then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and drop that table and restart from scratch again. All right, perfect, perfect. All right, so this is our new. Let's go ahead and run it again. All right, and well, again, what I'll do is I'll try to add a new subscription. So post sub. All right, subscription created successfully. And let's try to delete now. Our subscription to user one. Subscription deleted. All right, now let's try to add it again. Hopefully we'll get past that error. Oh my god. Oh, snap, sorry. Wrong endpoint. All right, so it's deleting, it's doing a hard delete instead of a soft delete. So with GORM, if you use the unscope, uh, I guess, method of the database, it'll let you perform hard delete. So let's take a closer look at this unscope function. What does it do? Okay. All right, so by default, it uses soft delete, and then by setting unscoped, we can. It works both ways. It even works with the find method, which is pretty interesting. All right, so we're able to create subscriptions, and I gotta close this. It's getting confusing. So we're able to create subscriptions. So next, let's go ahead and add a newsfeed to the system. All right, let's just go ahead and make that. And let's go back into our generated code and see what Gemini is doing to Gemini's idea of generating a newsfeed. So let's copy the code over, and then we'll do a quick review of what it does. All right. Again, it's looking for the database package. I should update Gemini's context to better understand what's happening. All right. All right. So at first, we're getting the page from the query as well as the limit, and then those two values are used to generate the offset. So basically, how many rows should be skipped before starting to display. And this is at the core of like all pagination approaches. I haven't seen like a place where it wasn't used at all. All right. Next, we find all the users where we find all the users that the person signed into is subscribed to, right? And if the user has no subscribers, instead of looking in the database, immediately return um, zero posts. And I believe we're missing like the JSON data type here, which is not good. So in this case, what will we do is we'll go ahead and set the status here so that it will apply for both contingencies, right? And then next, that array of user IDs that we generated from the subscription objects is used to find any post with the user ID and then show it. But there's one crucial thing missing about this. So we'll only get the post data, but we won't get any information about the post. So we'll go back to Gemini and we'll ask it to update the newsfeed such that a poster's name is displayed alongside a post. Create a custom local data structure if you must. In just a sec, we should get our responses soon. again with the DTO. Okay. All right. Not bad. Not bad. Not bad. Not bad. Not bad. Again, the rows that the data has to travel through. I would do this much cleaner, but okay. So we'll need to update our post data structure where we're basically giving ourselves the ability to preload the user data and then display that alongside the newsfeed. So I'll go ahead and copy this new chunk of code, right, into our newsfeed.co. Right, and a few things have changed. Let's go ahead and get this line too, so we can keep that. All right, and again, we'll set our content type to JSON as soon as the database starts returning um, some form of data. So why isn't this importing GORM? Beats me. Feels repetitive doing these changes. Okay. All right, so GORM should be imported. Why is GORM not being imported? All right, let's go ahead and add it manually. Maybe we're using GORM here. Yeah, we are. Okay. Okay, perfect. So GORM is now included in the. And again, as soon as we have the list of user IDs that the person is subscribed to, we use that to query. We use that to find posts with the user ID inside a user subscription. All right. So next, another cool thing too is with this preload function, which will populate the user field that we just added into our post data structure, right? And then so I don't want this to be set through external means. So to like as for JSON, the JSON field name, we'll put a hyphen or a dash there, which will tell any incoming input to be ignored. And then, as you can see, so we're selecting only the ID and the name of the user and returning that with our post, right? And then so once we have a list of our raw posts, then we'll loop through the results and the values, um, assign the values to our newsfeed post item, right? So since we have this in, let's go ahead and register the endpoint that will handle this request. So I think it's newsfeed. All right. Newsfeed. We'll add that below the sub endpoints. All right, so we have our new newsfeed endpoint up and running. Let's go ahead and run this and see if it doesn't explode in our face or anything like that. So can I duplicate tab? All right, so I'll duplicate this tab and then news feed. I believe my header should be there still. Perfect. And we get requests, send the data over. Perfect. And we have our posts from Chefsec. Right. So under the poster field, we have the user's ID and name, and then we have the created ad date, the content title, and the ID of the post. So how do we really test this? Let's go ahead and unsubscribe from Chefsec. All right. So we've deleted our subscription, and let's try to fetch from the newsfeed again, and no results will be showing up. Right. And one last thing is let's add one more endpoint where we can view our list subscriptions. I believe if we're building a front end interface at any point, we should be able to list subscriptions to the user. Right. So let's go ahead and create this again, and we'll ask Gemini add another handler that adds lists the user's subscriptions. taking time. I think it's overloaded with Saturday. But you think it'd be faster. So the little API is coming along quite well. In this video, we've added subscriptions and newsfeed to the API. Right. In the previous video, we did JWT, and the one before that, we basically just generated the skeleton of the API with Gemini. Right. So why is this taking so long to apply? Okay. I don't want to get all that. Don't use. Oh yeah, we do definitely need to use a DTO because. Oh my god. Oh, this is crazy. All right. Ensure content type for responses set as application JSON. That way we don't have to keep adding these little snippets to the handlers so that they can just display the data properly. All right. But let's see what it generated while this is working. So there's a my subscriptions endpoint now. I think I'll just make it get sub. So it just shows you that. And now it tells me I'm absolutely right. Oh, why is it in the sign up? Oh, it's doing it for all of them. Christ. Uh, let's just copy this and Right, so we already have a subscriptions package. Delete subscription. Maybe one more function wouldn't hurt. We'll delete this. It's not useful. And then we'll move this subscription user info to the top. And this lets us display our subscription data in a more humanely manner, right? So now we have get my subscription, right? And here we're doing a query to the database where we're getting all we're comparing each row and returning the ones where the subscriber ID matches the user's login user's ID, and this lets us get the list of subscriptions that we have into a nice little array. Next, we'll get the user IDs, right? And we'll only select the ID, name, and email, where the ID is in the provided array of user IDs. And then once we have that data, we'll just append it to the ultimate list and send it back. And then let's also add our content type header. That's crucial. I assume with this JSON encoder, then again, it won't know because it sees this as a writer. Yeah, so it won't be able to automatically set it. All right, so I have my get my subscriptions endpoint. Now let's register the path in our mux or multiplexer. So we'll just call it subs or sub. Keep it at that. Oh wait, sorry. All right, so this is a get, and we can use sub again, right? Because it's a different method, so it won't conflict with the existing ones. So let's rerun this and let's see what happens. Just get sub, and I can see my subscriptions to the name of the person I'm subscribed to and their email. I mean, I don't think just throwing people's emails around on social network would be a wise idea, but it's just for testing purposes, so it shouldn't seem like a big deal. All right, so that was it. This is how you would go about adding a newsfeed to your little social media API. And in this case, we're using a subscription object, right? And then that subscription object is used to get the user's posts, right? So it's not even connected. Yeah. So that subscription object is used to get the user's post. So this can be user post 1, and this could be user post 2. But they're tied to the user that's signed in through this subscription, right? And so we use the subscription to determine which post should we show to the user, and then as well as order by the day it was created at, and giving you a newsfeed like experience. Hopefully, when we start working on the front end, it'll make more sense. So we've got subscriptions working, uh, being able to post working. Um, I believe the next step is we can start working on a UI for this API. All right, thank you for watching, and that's what I had for today.